Well, I'm a fierce defender of common sense gun reform. I've had the occasion to be sued by the NRA and the gun lobby. They had me in court for 2 years. The good news is we beat them at the circuit court, we beat them at the appellate court, and we want to see them in the Supreme Court. It's time for regular folks to get their voice again in this process. We've had a major failure by Commissioner Adam Putnam, allowing for folks to have gone unvetted through the federal system to get access to concealed weapons, putting people and everyday people in danger. We believe that there ought to be comprehensive background checks. We believe that there ought to be sufficient waiting periods, that weapons of war should have no place on our city streets, and that domestic violence abusers should not get access to weapons to snuff out the lives of their loved ones. Those are basic, those are common, and they enjoy a lot of support. In fact, majority support by Floridians all over the country, the state.
You're not gonna go all PG on me, are you? So I know we've had our moment where we kind of talked about my stance on guns and your kind of elusive stance on guns. Because usually you don't even want to talk about it with me.
You think guns are sexy, so I just feel like we have a completely different viewpoint.
I really do, though.
Okay.
So as far as me thinking guns are sexy, what is your biggest problem with that?
What is sexy about a gun? Like, it's heavy, it's cold, it's metal.
I'm
That's
taking
not
a projectile
sexy.
and I'm launching it hundreds and hundreds of feet, faster than the speed of sound, at a target probably this big.
That's not sexy. Maybe cool.
So, besides me finding guns sexy, what about just in general the gun culture that kind of gives you the most pause?
I've already told you that basically to me, and I can answer your question before you ask it, no one, unless you're a military or a police officer, needs to have that type of rifle.
Are you denying that here, us in Dallas right now, that we're completely and totally, completely safe?
I'm not saying we're totally safe.
You're implying that with your comment.
Of course I'm not. I'm implying that the means of protecting yourself doesn't necessarily have to be this massive gun.
So I have to understand, so you don't believe that there's any other reason, there's no reason to own guns?
Besides your protection.
Okay, that's what I was asking. So when I asked you, why do you feel people own guns?
For protection. That's what everyone says.
Okay.
But
you don't necessarily believe that.
not necessarily.
Why?
Because I don't, like I said, I don't see anyone pulling out a gun to protect themselves. Like, people.
So if I were to show you, let's say right now I had an iPad right now, and I went online and I Googled citizen stops crime with gun, or somebody protects themselves with gun, or somebody protects themselves from a home invasion with a gun, what would you have to say to that?
And how many of those cases do you see?
There are hundreds and hundreds of thousands of them.
And how many cases do you see people escalating situations with a handgun, whether it be an actual shooting or them just having it and it adding to the situation to escalate it more than it needs to be?
Never deny that happens. So I guess
it's the balance of it. That's my thing. And so I think that.
So what kind of balance should we have, though? Because from what I'm hearing with you, left to your own devices, you'd get rid of them altogether, correct?
I wouldn't get rid of all of them.
Okay.
I would limit the number you could have.
But you just said we don't see why we need them.
I specifically said the big machine guns, like all those rifles, something that can like pierce the skin of a rhino. What rhino are you shooting at, friend? My issue is with the stockpiling of massive amounts of guns.
Okay.
Why do you have so many?
Is it just the stockpiling, or is it just that they have the rifles, or is it just that you don't feel that they need to have guns? Period?
It's all of it. It's all tied into each other.
Let's take it. But then you ask the question, well, then why do you need a rifle?
Yes.
Well, because in the scheme of things, you're asking that question because you believe that the rifle is unnecessarily powerful. But if I have a gun because it's the most effective means to protect myself, why not have the most effective gun to use to protect myself?
Is that the most effective gun? Is it, or is it just a matter of it being larger? Is it a matter of it being your personal preference?
A lot of it depends on situations, right?
So my thing is, I think that dead is dead either way. And so if you're using a gun, you're gonna kill them either way.
So then why make the distinction between whether somebody should have a pistol or a rifle? You have a problem with assault rifles, don't you?
I have a problem with people in general having large numbers of guns. No one needs to have these assault rifles unless they are in specific situations where they are warranted, such as.
So if I've
let me finish.
Hold on.
Such as.
Hold on. We have to establish what's considered warranted.
Okay.
So do you have a problem with somebody owning multiple cars?
No.
So
how
police,
much more
cars are
dangerous is a
responsible.
car than a
They're responsible
gun?
for killing way more people than they do guns. Are you really?
Okay.
Really?
Okay.
The number of people who die as a result of car accidents, driving accidents, they're more than people.
And it's as a result of the people, correct?
Let me ask you this one question.
Okay.
Why not restrict the people from owning only one car? Why don't you say we should only own one car?
Because it's not the number of cars that causes the problem, it's the individual in the car. But
So
what
then
happens
how is
when...
it that the number of guns...
Because when
what
I can go
causes-
out and buy 15 guns, I can give those guns to you. Everybody gets a gun. I'm Oprah with the guns.
Okay.
That's ridiculous.
I have a number of guns. I have a shit ton of guns, right? Mm-hmm. What problems am I creating?
I'm not...
Hold on. What problems am I creating?
You gonna stop hold on to me.
Because you're not answering the question I'm asking.
Okay, my turn?
Yeah.
So you're saying that the best way to protect yourself from this is with a gun.
Mm-hmm.
So the best way to protect yourself from some random man walking into your house unarmed is with a gun.
In that particular situation, if he's unarmed, I don't know, it depends. If I'm in the house by myself...
Okay, let me finish. No. So we're saying that there's some room for ambiguity, right?
In terms of what?
In terms of whether the gun is the best way to protect yourself. Are they there to cause you? Because at the end of the day, when you pull out a gun...
Are you telling me it's unreasonable to assume that...
Hold on. When you... At the end of the day, if you're pulling out a gun, the purpose of it is to cause serious physical harm, right?
No. That's not the case. It's not, because you're not accounting for all of the various uses that people have for guns. That's the problem.
Okay, what other use do you have?
You have a very myopic understanding of why people own guns.
All right.
So, like I said at the very beginning, right? We have our contentions about
very different viewpoints.
Certain aspects of this right, and we'll continue to have them as the time goes on. But considering all of that, at this point, just taking into account everything that I've done, I don't know if you've been paying attention to anything that I've been doing.
Of course I have. I've actually gotten a chance. I checked out some of the previous episodes, seen you guys do when you run around like crazy people. It's like paintball, but with real guns.
Why we gotta run around like crazy people?
Well, it's just you. Oh. Everyone else is perfectly safe. It's just you. Yeah, but I mean, it looks interesting. So I do appreciate the perspective of it being a lifestyle, and obviously not necessarily, a bad person. Only bad people own guns. I wouldn't, expect that. I think you're underneath, deep down, you're probably okay, maybe. But yeah, the lifestyle aspect of it is interesting. And I respect your views and I respect everything that you say. I think you understand what I'm saying. I understand what you're saying. We just disagree and it happens. C'est la vie.
If I'm gonna be completely honest about my conversation with Jamish, I'll admit our conversation was nothing more than verbal jousting. It's what goes on in the mainstream media every time the issue of guns is brought up. Two people try to outdo each other in some half-assed attempt to stroke their egos with every contradiction and stump moment. It's this type of gladiatorial linguistic demonstration that people can't get enough of. The entertainment value is incredibly high, but what you get out of it in terms of actual value is questionable. This is what tends to happen when you take someone who is passionate about a stance and have them debate that stance with someone who is just as passionately against it. Each party brings their ego to the table, and no matter what the other person says, there will be a counter. At best, no one walks away a winner and you just agree to disagree. At worst, it blows up. However, sometimes there's a bit of a breakthrough. After everyone goes their separate ways and reflects on the argument without their egos involved, there are small moments of clarity. This was the case with Jamish. I'm not saying she called me up and told me how right I was about everything, but she did tell me that she could see the validity in some of my points, and that she actually wanted to go shoot for the first time. I hope that after you watch Jamish swallow her pride and shoot some guns, that you cut her a little bit of slack.
One of the reasons I wanted to even have this conversation with you, because I knew, one, you won't back down, no matter what, but...
That's not accurate. If I'm wrong, I'll back down.
This conversation doesn't prove that.
Think back to who you were 6 years ago. You didn't go from that person to who you are today through one defining experience. Life is a succession of little changes, just a bit here, a bit there. That's my story anyway. But one day fate knocked me a bit harder than usual. My buddy Osa took me to shoot my first gun. I won't say my life changed in that moment, but nothing was the same after that.
think I remember the first time like I actually showed you my gun and like you were afraid to like even touch it.
I was like, no, I'm good.
I'm like, it's not gonna bite you.
You were there when
Yeah.
all this started. Like the very first, you were there for the first shot.
Yeah.
And
I remember it scared the shit out of you.
it did. I remember I was like, whoa, whoa,
Yeah.
whoa, whoa, whoa. Okay.
Yeah.
And I thought I did something wrong.
Yeah, you're like, this is not the movies.
So when we got in the parking lot, I was cool. Right? And then when we got in the building, I was decent.
Yeah.
But then somebody opened the door, and then I can hear the pop, 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 pop. And I kind of jumped a little bit, and I was like, I don't know what I just got myself into, but I'm stuck. Now look at how the tables have turned.
After the first week we went to the gun range, and I think I called you. You were like, oh, I'm at a gun show. I'm like, what the fuck? I was like, he was just afraid of guns like a week ago.
Getting back together with Osa was exactly what I'd hoped for. He took me back to when I was the wide-eyed, terrified kid, and then the obsessive nerd desperately seeking out every experience the gun world could possibly offer me. He introduced me to guns without pretensions or preconceived notions. He didn't tell me why I had to own a gun or why I had to believe this or that. He let me come to my own conclusions, and I'm forever grateful for that.
I really do appreciate you at least taking the time out to kind of talk to me about it and just challenging me, challenging my perspective and, you.
Well, then I'd like to ask for something in return.
Go ahead.
I want you to take me to the gun range.
You wanna
I've
shoot?
never been.
Really?
And I feel like it's not fair for me to have these opinions, and I've never done it.
I know we can make that happen.
Deal?
That's a deal. And you know what I'm gonna promise you?
Oh, God.
I'm gonna bring my stockpile of weapons.
Oh, God. I'm gonna drop it on my foot.
You're not gonna drop it on you.
I am.
You know.
So you've gotten to know my friend Jamish over the course of this season. She probably frustrated you and reminded you of other misinformed anti-gunners that have crossed your path. But I look at her and I see myself 6 years ago. Before Osa put a gun in my hand, it changed everything. I've been talking about my views and why I think the way that I do. But like me 6 years ago, Jamish won't fully understand until I show her. So that's what I'm gonna do.
So, after our little back and forth that we had about guns and gun control and things like that, now we're out here at the range. We're in my territory, more or less. And after we had our little discussion, you talked a bit. You're like, okay, you're a little interested in. Is curiosity a better way of saying it?
Yeah, and also I don't think that you can rule out something that you've never done.
Fair enough. Fair enough. So right now, with all of the guns on the table, right? How are you feeling right now?
I am freaked out. Like, I'm trying to remember when the last time it was I've ever felt this nervous.
Now, I can actually empathize with that because the very first time I went to shoot, I was nervous as hell.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not nervous, I was scared. And the weird thing is I'm watching you out here, and you have the different shots going off in the background, and you're kind of jumpy.
I didn't think you noticed that.
Yeah, I did. But the thing about it was when I first went to the range, I was the same way. But after a while, you do get used to it. So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna start you off with a lower caliber handgun. A lot of how much recoil that you feel from a gun is depending on the size,
Yeah.
which most people think. So if I were to ask you right now, if you had to pick a gun right here that seems the least intimidating, which gun would it be?
I'm going for the little joint.
Which one? That little
Or
one?
actually, maybe this one.
That one or this one?
Yeah, maybe
So,
this one.
okay, so this is what they call the Nano, right?
Yeah.
The Beretta Nano. It's a 9mm. So this gun and the gun we're about to shoot, this one, shoot the same round.
Okay.
All right. So here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna start off shooting this gun first. I want you to get used to hearing the sound of the gun going off in a closer proximity than what you're hearing out there, okay? So I'm gonna go up to the 10-yard mark and I'm gonna shoot at those still targets. Good. Okay, so how are you feeling now?
That was way more than 5.
It was,
one.
but I'm a little trigger happy. So
I
one
know
thing
this.
you're gonna learn about me, when I start shooting, it's hard for me to stop.
I see
Just
that.
because I enjoy it that much.
I'm fine. I honestly, like, it's that nervousness where I'm like, I just want to do it so I can kind of
That's fair enough.
go over the hump.
Okay. I'm literally just going to hand the gun off to you.
Sure.
And remember what I told you before about
Finger
keeping
off.
your finger off the trigger until you're ready to shoot, and all the rules that we taught you before off camera.
Okay.
So I'm gonna make this hot. All right. So now the gun is loaded. Okay. It's ready to go. So at this point, when I hand it to you, all you have to do is pull the trigger.
Okay.
All right. So remember what I told you before. So right hand grips the gun.
Okay.
All right. Now watch. Okay.
I don't like it.
You're good. You're good. All right.
Okay.
Watch your finger. You see how you have that natural tendency
Yeah.
once you put the finger on the trigger?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's why we teach
Here.
indexing it on the
Sorry,
side.
did I
And remember, I
freak
told
you
you,
out?
after a while, it'll start to become automatic.
Sure.
Okay. So then, what's your most comfortable stance? So remember, always keep that pointed downrange.
Okay.
So
this
whatever
way,
your
like
most
right
comfortable
here.
stance. So widen your base just a little bit, as if you're playing the sport. And then you actually want to lean forward just a tad.
Okay.
All right. So now find your target, center that white dot,
Yeah.
and then just pull the trigger.
Ah!
Now, finger off the trigger. Finger off the trigger. All right. You want to do it again?
Oh, no. Not really.
All right, hold it. All right. All
Okay.
Sorry, index your finger on the side. Okay. Okay. There you go. There you go. There you go. So now, let's decompress. Let's decompress.
My heart is beating so
It
fast.
should though. It should
It's
though.
not.
But see, you got to think about it. This is not normal to you. This
No,
is
it's
not
not.
something that you've experienced before. So I don't expect you to come out here and just say, "Yeah, I'm having a great time." I told you my first time shooting was overwhelming. You know, so everything you're feeling right now is exactly what it should. Like, this isn't a toy.
Yeah.
You know, so it's something. This is something that is very powerful. Now that you shot the gun for the very first time, what were your thoughts?
It was very scary. It was still scary.
Yeah.
It's a lot of power. Like, you can feel it. Like, the first time when it recoiled, even like after the first time, I'm still like kind of adjusting to how much it pops back.
Yeah.
So it's like, that freaked me out as much as like shooting it.
Here's the thing, though. All of what you said makes perfect sense. The reason why is because it's. I don't want to go so far as saying it's abnormal, but you got to think about this is a mini explosion going off in your
Yeah.
hand, right? So it's not something you're used to, something that you've ever done before. So it's going to be overwhelming. It's going to be intense.
We've already discussed I'm a bit of a control freak. Like, I feel like I don't have as much control over it as I would
Yeah.
like. So maybe that's something that comes with practice or whatever the case may be.
But like, I mean, because in the same way I'm a control freak that you're a control freak. I'm the same way. The things that scare us, that are irrational, we want to actually
Yeah.
conquer them, right? Which is why I think you're even out here.
Exactly.
Because I know you don't really want to be out here, but you're out of here because it gives you a certain level of control.
Exactly.
All right. So that was a 9mm full-size handgun. Out of all the guns that are on this table, which one is the most intimidating to you?
This one is freaking me out more.
Okay. So why is that?
It's bigger. It's like sitting off the table a little 3D-ish.
Yeah. Well, that's a
Jaws
lot of it is
3D
because
here.
of the little knob over here.
Oh.
Yeah.
It's still pretty sizable though.
What about this one? Is
It's
this?
pretty, that one's pretty scary. This one is, I just feel like it's too simple for it to not be some real seriousness. Like,
This is just a shotgun.
I know.
Yeah.
I don't like it.
But
I don't like it.
so this is also scary to you.
Yes.
Okay. So here's what we're gonna do with this. You're gonna shoot it. So remember that thing I was telling you about 22?
Yeah.
This is a 22.
Okay, that's a little baby bullet. It's cute.
Oh yeah. You're not. Yeah. It's cute.
No, I don't
for,
like
for
that.
all intents
I
and
don't like
purposes.
that.
No, I'm not saying that to scare you in that. No, it's not cute in the sense of it's not a real bullet. That's the thing. It's just like
it's a real bullet.
Yeah.
But if you can call guns sexy, I can call bullets cute.
You know what? Touche. Touche.
All right, here we go.
All right.
I missed. Did I hit it?
Nope.
I wasn't aiming.
That's why you probably missed it. There you go.
Oh, okay, yeah, it's definitely the aiming.
Yeah. There you go.
Okay.
Yep, and you're out. There you go. So this shoots same round as that handgun, 9mm, right? So here's what I want you to do. I don't want you to think about it. I just want you to take this and shoot it the way you think it should be shot.
Oh, God. All right. What?
What were you about to do just now?
I was about to put it up to my shoulder.
Can't do that. It's illegal. Under federal law, you can't put this thing to your shoulder.
Why would you do that?
But I have to ask you the real question. Does that make any sense to you?
No,
Why?
because it just felt comfortable. Like, that's just where.
Makes it easier to shoot the gun, right?
Yeah.
All right, the way you're supposed to shoot this is supposed to stick your hand through here
What?
and hold it up like this.
Oh, that's real Terminator.
Well, how would you prefer to shoot it?
baby. With it on my shoulder.
Why?
Because I want the added bulk of me
Makes it,
behind.
makes it easier to shoot the gun, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, according to the federal laws, the ATF, we can't have a stock on this gun like this and put it on our shoulder because this barrel is shorter than 16 inches.
Okay, listen. We've already established that our federal government doesn't have it all the way right on these gun laws, all right? So this one went for me, the other ones go for you.
Hey.
You give and you take.
All I'm trying to demonstrate to you is you shot a rifle, right? And you understood, and you shot a rifle and you were like, it was easier to shoot, didn't recoil as much. And a lot of the reason why it's easy to shoot is because you can hold it
Sure.
and put it on your shoulder.
Sure.
Clearly, this makes no sense,
It doesn't.
which is part of the points that we were talking about when we were at the table. And that's part of my biggest gripe, is if you encounter somebody who talks about how this makes putting a stock on a gun that has a barrel that's less than 16 inches, which I hardly doubt you'll be having that conversation, but if you do, now you're in a position to understand why that's so silly. Now, I know you don't probably agree with me on all of the other laws that are out there, but at least you're starting to kind of understand and grasp the fact
Sure.
that some of the stuff don't make no damn sense.
Duly noted.
Now, what we're gonna do now is I'm gonna have you shoot the gun that's actually legal.
Okay, perfect.
Okay?
1, 2, 3.
There you go, let's get that target. There you go. There you go. What are your thoughts at this point?
I'm still pretty terrified. I don't think it's something I would ever be comfortable doing.
Regardless of whether or not you're still scared or not, which
Yeah.
you have every right to be and continue to be scared, that's fine. But you can't deny the fact that you know a lot more than you did going in.
Very good job. Kudos to
Don't
you.
patronize me.
Why? It's so
No,
fun.
but I mean,
No,
it's-
do. And honestly, I think that, like you said, just the education aspect of it, like, to be able, if I ever do happen to catch myself in a conversation, I get it. Like,
Yeah.
I understand what you're saying. And I understand the comforts of it. I appreciate knowing that there are rules around here and that you guys actually follow them. Kudos.
But here's the thing, though, that's crazy about it. A lot of the politicians that advocate for some of the gun control laws that most people just kind of blindly follow, those politicians don't know half of what you know now.
Oh, well, that's
A
problematic.
lot of them haven't even shot before, and that's kind of the crux of
Sure.
of using you and I's conversation is
Yeah.
the idea that we can't make laws about something that you don't have any education about.
Agree.
It's just,
That's why I'm here.
It's unrealistic. You get unrealistic laws, but I know still terrified. I know your heart's pounding right now because you told me it was.
Not terrified.
Yeah.
Just a little shaky, but it's good.
Fair enough. No, it's fair enough.
Honestly, like I'm very apathetic towards it. Like
Yeah.
it's not something I necessarily want to do again. I'm not like opposed. I do. If I'm ever in the zombie apocalypse, apparently I'm not too bad of a shot, so
I give you
I
that.
could probably, take out a few zombies if needed.
Just make sure you open your eyes.
They were open. I just have to use the right versus the left.
I enjoyed bringing you out here. I enjoyed being able to show you kind of how things actually are versus how you thought they were in your mind. And like I said, you and I will always probably disagree.
Forever.
It is what it is. It is what it is. But
Sure.
I still always enjoy our conversations, even though
No, I'm just kidding.
most of the time some of the stuff you say is kind of.
Well, that's because you're usually wrong.
Oh, I'm wrong.
Of course you are. You already knew that though.
Sometimes.
All the time.
Sometimes.
Like 80%.
Here's the problem though. When I'm wrong, I'm still
You're
right.
super wrong. No,
No, I'm
that's
still right.
totally erroneous.
How so?
You're super wrong right now.